Well, happy June. Good morning, skyscraper directors and leaders and Mary Kay leaders. I was just doing a little studying this morning in Time in the Word and really wanted to share with you what God was sharing with me because hopefully it will help you start your June off in a place of joy filled, um, doubt less, um, fear less, positive expectancy. Okay, let's dig in. I'm going to name some resources and I encourage you to look this up and see what God tells you about this. This is what He told me about this. See what He tells you about this. Holy Spirit is the chief reminding officer. He's going to tell you everything you need for whatever God's called you to, because this is not about you. This is about His kingdom, His purposes, done His ways, according to His character. Okay, let's dig in. I started to use the Experiencing God workbook. You guys know I love this. Life-changing, love it. Go back to it time and time again. Open it up this morning. For some reason, there was a bookmark on this page, day 3 of week 7, which is crisis of belief, which may be where you're at June 1st. Maybe there's 6 months worth of production or team members, etc., to get done by the end of June. So you may be at a crisis of belief time. Day 3 in my workbook, it's 142, encounters with God are God-sized. So it says, God is interested in the world coming to know Him. The only way people will know what God is like is to see Him at work in their world. They'll know His nature when they see it expressed in His activity. Whenever God involves you in His activity, the assignment will have God-like dimensions to it. Some people say, God will never ask me to do something that's impossible. On the contrary, if the assignment I sense God is giving me is something I know I can handle on my own, I assume it probably is not from God. The assignments God gave in the Bible were always God-sized. They were always beyond what people could do in their strength because He wanted to demonstrate His nature, His strength, His provision, and His love to His people and to a watching world. That is the only way the world will come to know Him. And so the memory verse for this crisis of belief, chapter 7, is Hebrews 11:6. And I do encourage you to go into Hebrews 11, the whole chapter, see what God has to say to you about this. The memory verse, Hebrews 11:6, says, without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to Him must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. And so I started to journal on that, and I use the spiritual journaling outline that's on my website under education, under 30-day challenge. So on that verse, I journaled, and then I went on to verse 11:8. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. And 11:30, by faith, the walls of Jericho fell after the people marched around them for 7 days. And so I journaled. By faith, God gives the promise, the dream, the opportunity to make it happen. Then there's always a crisis of belief. Abraham was told to leave, didn't know where. He was told he was going to have a baby. You know the story there. Joshua had walked through all of the Red Sea parting, all of the march, the freedom of the Israelites out of Egyptian slavery into the promised land with Moses. And now Joshua is at the Jordan, and Jericho's across the Jordan River. Crisis of belief, a Red Sea, a Jordan River, something that's never happened before. So I wrote down crisis of belief. And these people, Joshua, Abraham, Mary Kay Ash, they did the crazy thing that had never been done before. They did the crazy thing that other people wouldn't do, that others said was impossible, because they believed and had faith in God more than themselves or circumstances or stats to date or choices to date. They believed God. Do the crazy thing in doubt, not doubtful, without doubt. Do the crazy thing in faith versus doubtful. Some people do the crazy thing, they do the activity, I'm working, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but it's doubtful. Doubtful. Just like fearless or fearful. They're doubtful means you're double-minded. Well, I'll do my best and see what happens. If your best has gotten you to here, it's not going to get you to marching around the walls and having them fall. It's not going to get you across the Jordan. It's not going to get you across the Red Sea. I wrote down, give God the opportunity to show up. Mary Kay did. Will I? So in that chapter 7, Henry Blackaby is sharing a story about a faith budget for their church, and talking about, this is the budget we can make because this is the tithes we think we're bringing in. So this is what we think we can do. Or where they can do a faith budget. We feel God has called us to blank. And so we're going to set our budget on that, not what we have in our account, not what people have told us already they're going to do, not with the people that are currently in our unit, not with what just happened in May or March or January or last June. We're going to do it based on what God laid on our heart, where that bright yellow dream is. What's the next best step to that in June? Is it your triple star? Is it your trip? Is it your Malibu, your Equinox, your Cadillac? Is it, setting up for 5, 6, 10 DIQs in July? I don't know what it is, but I do know God knows. And if he's given it to you, if you haven't talked yourself out of it, rationalized, patted your cage so it's so comfortable staying where you're at, that's a crisis of belief. You got to leave comfort and convenience to walk across a river that's still flooded, to march around a city blowing horns 7 times, believing that it's going to fall. I believe Joshua, when he sent those troops out, he believed it was going to happen. He didn't know how. He had no weapons. He had never fought a battle like that. How about us handling June that way? Fighting the battle differently than you ever have, differently in activity. Are you willing to do the 100 faces by the 15th of June? The 33 skincare sets, the 10 personal agreements by the middle of June? Doing something different than you have ever done before. Believing that something different is going to happen that's ever happened before. Crisis of belief time leads to adjustments, which leads to obedience. You don't jump from crisis of belief to obedience. There has to be adjustments. Adjustments are going to be activity. Adjustments are going to be how you spend your time. I made a choice to work over the holiday weekend while doing the holiday and getting the lake house ready finally for summer. And finally, after the renovation. But I knew then that I had done what I was called to do. Rest. Joshua was not sitting there. I don't even know. It doesn't even say if he was marching 7 times around himself. He had told the people what God had told him. And then it's up to God's collective people. Not one can do it. There's always a leader. I lead an area. You lead a unit. I lead a personal team, you lead personal teams. We're all leaders in lots of different arenas of our life because that's how God made us. But then I went to bed with peace and woke up really early before the birds and the sun came out to spend time with the Lord to have clarity in perspective. Because for us to get Diamond Circle done, for us to be on target for Inner Circle, for us to have, reach all the goals the company has for us, it is going to be us marching around the walls 7 times, which we've never done before. It's going to look different. It can't be more of the same. So if you've only done in-person Mary Kay business, it's going to be adding on virtual maybe. If you do all virtual, it's going to be adding on more personal. Maybe you do more test paneling. Maybe you do more events. It doesn't matter what it is. It's that you are making the choices at a crisis of belief time that are in line with what God has told you to do months ago, years ago, by the end of this June, to set you up for seminar, set you up for our leadership retreat in October with Kelly Collins, set you up for leadership in Nashville. You guys, I am so excited because I know that what many, if not all of you, have chosen to work towards, that you have shared with Diana, you've confirmed that no matter what you're doing that it's uncharted territory. There's crisis of belief and adjustments that are happening as I speak. And then we're going to go out there in obedience. We're going to do our part. We're going to trust God. But the banner for this area, for this year and beyond, is Him. He's going to do this through us, you guys, if we let Him. I'm willing. I'm willing. Are you? Happy June 1st.